to Red Ice Creations Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Good to have you along. My name is Henrik Palmgren. We are coming to you from the west coast of Sweden. But wherever internet is accessible, you can find us online at redicecreations.com. That's REDICE creations.com. And today we have speaker, filmmaker, spiritual and science researcher David Wilcock with us. David's website is divinecosmos.com, where you can find articles, video, audio and much more of David's work. It was about 6 months ago since we had David on Red Ice. Certainly doesn't feel like it's been half a year already. But anyway, I encourage you to go back into our archive and listen to that program in case you missed it. That will give you a little bit of background on who David is and the kind of work that he does. And I thought that we could begin this program to recap a little bit of what David has been up to since we last spoke. I know that he's been attending many conferences, giving talks and much more. So let's say hi to our guest and get this program on the road. Great to have you back again, David, and thank you for spending some of your time with us here today. I know that you're a very busy man.
Well, I feel like what you're doing for the planet is a valid service, and I think you have a really attractive website. And more importantly, it's the spirit that you bring to these interviews that shines through from multiple guests, not just me. And I was happy to accept your invitation when you extended it to me. So it is a worthwhile use of my time to do this show with you, absolutely.
Thank you, David. Great to have you here. And, as I said there, why don't we, talk a little bit about what you have been up to, rather, since we last spoke. I know that you have been doing a few conferences, and
sure.
I mean, how are all your projects coming along, David?
Well, going back into conferences was a major step for me, because I now do have a great deal of people tracking me down. Of course, I get 120 emails a day, and these are not just little one-off emails that people write one or two sentences. I'm getting highly well thought out emails that are loving and insightful, and what I'm seeing in increasing numbers is that people are having experiences. And these experiences are unlike anything in their previous context. They're seeing things emerge in their lives, and they feel as if I'm the only person that would be able to understand and help them. And I think this is an ongoing part of this ascension process, as it's been called, wherein, for example, that you look at the Flynn effect, we see that IQ scores have been increasing by about 3% every 10 years since the late 19th century. And that extends, the study was done over 20 countries, and it's an ongoing phenomenon. Now, the other thing I like to pair with that is a study that was done by Dr. James Spottiswoode, which we talked about last time, I think, in which we found out that when your position on the Earth is aligned with the center of the galaxy, your psychic abilities, these are ordinary people that were tested, your psychic abilities increased by about 400%. So that suggests that our position in the galaxy and galactic energy itself actually has a direct effect on our mind. And this gets into the difference between the mind being an online function as opposed to an offline function. And offline, I would say, is like local stuff in the body, the nervous system, your cerebellum that keeps you balanced, the autonomic nervous system, all of these various things that make sure that the body keeps running. If a woman gets pregnant, the pregnancy is going to go through the term even if she's comatose. So things like that are run by the local brain. However, all of the stuff that relates to thinking and intellect and reasoning seems to be occurring in an energetic field which is only superficially related to the neurological brain system. Now, granted, you can damage the brain and you can damage the antenna so that you may have the thoughts and processes still occurring in the energy field, but the interface that they have to your body is damaged somehow so that you're not getting those things coming through. That doesn't undermine the idea that the actual processing itself occurs in the energy field. And there's been a lot of research that we were thinking about putting into our movie that we haven't, dealing with the idea that there are studies, for example, where they took salamanders' brains out and basically chopped up the whole brain and then put it back in, and the salamander still remembered the mazes that they taught him. The only thing that would happen when they first put the brain back in is that his motor coordination was really damaged. But mine does appear to be a non-local phenomenon, and I really feel that when you look at this galactic study, what we're seeing is that the actual functional capacity of your mind can be changed by outside factors. You look at the Flynn effect, as I said, you get IQ scores raising 3% every 10 years ongoingly. These include countries that are not civilized in the sense of having access to literacy. It's all across the board. And what they also found was that the most common form of intelligence that rose the most is abstract symbolic thinking and reasoning.
Really?
Meaning like all these strange things that are happening to people. So, again, I'm sorry, I want to not just go into monologues here, but to answer your question, I would say the biggest real change in my life is that since I've gone back into doing conferences and as a result of creating this 2012 Enigma video, I have had a substantial increase in how many people are following what I'm doing, and a substantial increase in the amount of email that I'm getting. And as a result of this, I feel like I can make a good statement about where the currents are blowing in humanity, and it seems that there is just really concrete evidence that the kind of things that were happening to me in the mid-1990s that led to my having a contact with my higher self, all those what I would call activation experiences are happening to more and more people now, and they're all saying, what's next? Where is this going? What is happening to me, and what's the point of it, and what am I going to do with it, and is this the end, or is it going to keep on going farther?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, are people worried about this, confused, or are they excited?
I wouldn't say they're worried. I get... If people express fear, it generally is to one of my colleagues, but not to me. Like Project Camelot, for example, have done interviews with people who have a very doom and gloom oriented perspective. And my perspective remains consistently positive, and that's not something that I'm doing in order to inflate people's confidence so that they will tweak the energy field in a positive way. I mean, that is true. It is absolutely true that when you focus on the positive, you're generating an energy that actually calms everyone else down. I liken it to temperature. You can actually see that when there's violence on the earth, for example, I'm sure you've done shows on the correlation between the amount of sunspot activity and the amount of war and economic upheaval. It's a direct correlation. So there's something energetic that can essentially crank up the heat on the planet, and when it does, it forces us to deal with our spiritual issues faster than we might normally deal with them. And that means we're facing our shadow, and that's actually an uncomfortable process for most people. So even though you're getting a blast of higher spiritual energy, the net effect of it is that your life gets more unpleasant for a while. And so what's happening to a lot of people is that they are basically getting thrown into the fire. And so on one level, you could say, yes, they're more worried and they're more frustrated, but the game is, can you integrate the catalyst that's coming up for you? Can you actually dance through your life and have that positive perspective that shines through the negativity? I mean, I just sprained my ankle yesterday. I can't even walk right now. And it's not brought me down. I mean, I'm using a cane and I'm going around the house, and I had a karmic thing. I mean, I knew what happened. There was a family member that I'd had an unloving thought about that was strong enough that I needed to be shown, don't do this. And so I got it and I processed it. But even that, having to have assistance so I can get around the house right now, I'm still not going to let that drag me down. And when you can integrate your catalyst that way and take the experiences that life presents you with this positive focus, then what will happen is that unlocks stored energy deep within your soul that translates into higher consciousness and abilities blossoming that you may never have had before. So that's really the game. The game is this 2012 thing. You can talk about the phenomenology. We can talk about interplanetary climate change and galactic energy fields and DNA transformation. But what we're really dealing with on a practical day-to-day basis in your own life is, can you handle the things that your life is giving you? Can you move through those experiences with diligent appreciation for yourself and for the others that have bringing you those experiences? And keep that positive focus, and when you do that, everything else in your life starts to blossom and flourish, and you start having these higher consciousness abilities come forth. So that really, that's sort of like the big picture perspective of how my life has changed is I'm seeing more and more people who are getting shaken by the catalyst, but in the process they're being transformed by their working through it. And it's been a real blessing. I mean, I just created an audio blog the other day. I just called it Wonderful New Reading and put it on my website with I didn't really put any description of it. And we had, in 24 hours, 3,222 people download it.
Great.
So that was really impressive, you know. And it's just an amazing thing to even right now think about the fact that as I'm telling you these things on the phone, that it's going to be heard by 5,000 people within 24 hours.
That's really cool.
It's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. So we're addressing the world here, as it were, you know. So
yeah.
I'm very glad that you mentioned this thing about, facing the shadow, as you call it, in that sense, that all of this that is happening now in a way is towards the end of things, this is going to be a positive thing, because so many things that are going down, as it were, on our planet right now is very much, if you want to look at it that way, a negative thing. We have, increasing oil prices. There are talks of food shortage. It feels like everything is falling apart. But I mean, is that the case? And is that a necessary process then that we need to go through this?
I wouldn't say that it's necessary. I would say that it is useful. The changes that you speak about, rising oil prices and economic uncertainty and war or rumors of war and earth changes and all these things, they do serve a purpose in the sense that the earth acts as a mirror for our own personal growth issues that we have not cleansed, healed, and integrated within ourselves. If we were cleaner as a planet, these things would not be necessary. The necessity comes in the fact that when you stumble around in your life unconscious, the universe or your higher self, or whichever moniker you choose to use for it, will come in and intervene to make you more conscious and will rebalance the equation so that you have a greater function within your spiritual self. And people who get cynical about God and about spirituality, or however you want to call the one infinite creator, people that get cynical about that will be angry about the fact that karma exists. Somebody in my position might be really upset that he just sprained his ankle and he can't walk.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that these are our gifts. They're given to us in order that we can keep aligning with who we really are. The irony of all this is that we can totally choose in our separate lives to experience a sense that we are this ego personality self that has its own identity, that has its own privacy from other people. But in a very real sense, there's a glass ceiling. You're walking around in your room in your house, and you don't realize there's a glass ceiling. And everything that you're doing, and everything that you say, and everything that you think, even in your internal thoughts, is totally wide open. Now, in the third density, in the realm that we're in, other people, other physical human beings around us generally do not hear our thoughts. And so we can shield our thoughts from each other. But because we are actually one infinite creator, there is no separation. We are this being that has chosen to experience the creation of apparently separate people in order to learn something. What happens is the creator is constantly trying to reintegrate itself, and we're not separate entities at all. Therefore, since we can consciously veil our thoughts from each other in a sense of not telling each other the truth comes out in other ways. If we are, for example, dealing with covert manipulation within family systems, like the horrific example of child molesting or something along those lines,